Hey, how's it going? My name is Riley, and I'm a documentary filmmaker that likes talking about everything from filmmaking and creativity to faith. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the DJI RSC2 and trying to answer whether or not this little gimbal is a good gimbal to use on documentary shoots. Now, documentaries come with a few inherent constraints. It's part of the fun and excitement of shooting documentaries, but it also poses a few challenges when selecting gear for these types of shoots. And often gimbals can clash with some of these constraints. Usually I'm filming in a setting that I can't get a second take of what's going on in front of me. Typically, I'm filming in a place that I need to be very low profile, and I almost always am filming either by myself or with a small crew that can really only take what we can pack and carry on our backs. And so when the DJI RSC2 came out, it seemed like this little gimbal might be the solution that I've been looking for all of these issues. Now, it's probably worth pointing out that these constraints don't just apply to documentaries. It could apply to weddings, events, or any other type of run and gun filmmaking that's hard to get repeatable action and get a second take of things that are going on. And it's because of these dynamics that I just haven't used the gimbal that I've owned, the Crane 2, very much on any of my documentary projects. I took it with me to the Congo, but I actually only used it for a few minutes on the last day that I was there. I just found that it got in the way and it wasn't something that I wanted to bother with setting up or breaking down. But the RSC2 has a few things going for it that I think might make it the perfect camera for documentaries, at least for my use case. The RSC2 has a light and compact form factor that's easy to break down and fold in your bag. It has a mode for an underslung that allows the handle to fold into itself, and while it's great for the underslung mode, it actually makes packing and storing the gimbal really nice and easy. I can throw it in the top of my bag. It doesn't take a ton of extra space, and if I'm not using it, it's not getting in the way because it doesn't require a large bulky case to pack it and take it to a shoot. My favorite feature on this gimbal outside of the form factor would definitely have to be the fact that if I plug it in with the USB-C to my camera, I have access to controlling the aperture, ISO, and even pulling focus directly from the gimbal. Now, this means that on documentary shoots, when things are happening quickly, I'm gonna be able to either pull focus directly through the gimbal or have access to my exposure settings without having to touch the camera. So essentially what this means is that there are fewer and fewer roadblocks and barriers to being able to access the camera quickly and being able to access exposure settings on the fly. So for me, I can't stress enough how nice and easy this gimbal is to use for my camera and my camera setup. DJI's website has a list of compatible cameras as well as what controls you have access to through the gimbal. It has a good payload of around 6.5 pounds, so it can easily take my setup, the Sony a7S III, with a cage and a decently large lens on it with no problem at all. It's easy to balance and has locks for each of the motors, which makes setting up easier, and it also makes repeating the setup even easier later on in a day. It has NATO rails built onto the side, which means that you can easily attach and detach monitors and other accessories. The battery life is also great and is something that definitely could last you all day on a shoot, but the battery also brings me to the list of things on this gimbal that I don't like. The battery is actually built into the gimbal, which means that if you're filming in a remote location or you're camping or hiking and you don't have access to power, you're gonna have to bring some sort of power bank to charge this gimbal at the end of a long day of filming. My biggest complaint about this gimbal is actually the base plate and quick release system that DJI shipped it with. It comes with an Arca Swiss system that I've seen a lot of people praise it for. And while I think the idea is clever, being able to take the camera on and off the gimbal without needing to repeat the balancing and setup process, the execution of it, I think, is actually fairly poor. And the reason for that is because you're locked into this Arca Swiss system that actually raises the height of the camera by a significant amount. And what this means is that if you use a camera cage, that is going to raise the height of the camera even more, making it difficult to balance with a reasonably large lens, like a 24-70, for example. So what I ended up having to do was find a different base plate altogether, because this Arca Swiss system doesn't come off of DJI's base plate. So that means if you're an Arca Swiss user already, then this might be totally fine with you. But if you use a different base plate or a different quick release system, you're gonna have to find your own base plate and work around this, because like I said, the Arca Swiss setup doesn't detach. Now, the lens support that this came with is pretty cheap and plasticky. I don't use it. Like I said, I have my own quick release system from my wooden camera cage that I use and have found to be a lot sturdier and a lot more adaptable to my tripod and monopod and other things that I use on a regular basis. Overall, I feel like my list of complaints is pretty short, and I feel like the things that I like about this gimbal definitely outweigh them. The fact that it has a compact and foldable design, the fact that it does an excellent job of keeping shots smooth and steady, and has several modes that are easy to work with, and has the ability to add some creative shots that you can't get without a gimbal, definitely means that it's a plus and means that I'll be able to get more of these specialty shots. I think for documentary filmmaking, it definitely has some upsides that other gimbals don't have. At $499, I think this is a great gimbal for the value. I think if you use cinema cameras, then you probably want to look at a larger gimbal like the DJI RSC2. For me, I don't often use larger cinema cameras for reasons that I've talked about before on the channel. So for me, this gimbal, the RSC2, made a lot more sense, and I've definitely been happy with my purchase, using it on a handful of documentary shoots here in Seattle over the last few months. If you're an RSC2 user, let me know in the comment section below how you've been liking shooting with this gimbal, and let me know what camera you're using it with as well. That is gonna do it for this one. If you found this video helpful, I would love it if you would click the like button down below, as well as consider subscribing. It really is the best way to help me support this channel. Thanks so much, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.